Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. Keeping Quiet is an anti war poem written in free verse. The poet in this poem urges the readers, or you can say each one of us, to take a moment and introspect and retrospect. Keeping quiet is one of the powerful way to escape the mechanistic motion of the modern life. Okay, so the poet is emphasizing on introspection and retrospection to think about our actions. Okay, now let us start the poem. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. Now we will count to 12. Now the poet is saying, the poet is urging each one of us to count to 12. Now here 12 is symbolic. Okay, symbolic of what? Symbolic of time. It can be 12 days, 12 hour. Why? Because each individual takes their own time to introspect or retrospect. For example, if one man is taking 1 year, so other can take 1 day also. So depends. Okay. And now we will all keep still, means we will take a moment, you will be still, we will be quiet for a while to introspect our action. For once on the face of earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now here the poet is saying that let us take a moment. Okay, and he wants a moment of silence on the earth. He wants a moment of silence on the earth. He says that let's not speak in any language. Now here language represents the races, the diversity. Okay, the language, the races, the diversity. So if we will not be speaking, definitely there will be no conflict. Okay, so there will not be any language barrier between the peoples and no harsh word will be spoken. Now let's stop for 1 second, take a moment and not move our arms so much. Now the poet is saying let us not speak in any language, let us not move our arms. Now arms here represents two things. First, arms, if we will take a pause, definitely we will be still. Second, arms represents our weapons. Okay, with weapons we are very much involved in war, and because of that we have chaos, violence and destruction. So the poet is saying that there would not be any movement, there will not be any destruction because of war. Okay, so arm, arms. Okay, figure of speech. This is metonymy and this is pun. This is pun. Now, it would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in sudden strangeness. Now, understand what the poet is saying. It would be so exciting without rush, without engines. Now, the poet is saying that it would be so exciting that everybody will be quiet, still, they will be introspecting. There will be a moment of silence. Okay, there will be no hurry or the sound of machines to pollute the atmosphere. So uh, this entire situation will be very strange, unfamiliar, and everywhere there will be stillness all around. Okay, so in this unusual period the bond of humanity will go, or we can say a brotherhood will develop. Okay, now without rush, without engine is used to emphasize. Now this is very very important. Let us understand. Fisherman in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Now what does this indicate? Fisherman represents the humans who are engaged in exploiting the nature. Okay, cold sea here represents the indifferent attitude of human beings that symbolizes the harsh world where survival often comes at the cost of harming others. Okay, now would not harm whales. Whales here represents the innocent creatures. Innocent creatures. Fisherman is the human beings. Cold sea is the indifferent attitude of human beings, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Now, the man gathering salts here represents the labor class people. They are very much involved in work. So, after that, what would happen? They will also get certain time to think, they will also get time to heal their own injuries. Okay, while gathering salts they might have hurt their hand, so they will get some time and they will heal their hands. This is very important because this represents the political ideology. Okay, we have exploitative nature, we have oppressor and oppressed. Now, harm whales represents the oppressed one, whereas fishermen are the oppressor. Okay, this is very important. Understand. Now, here we have the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hand. What does this indicate? Laborers who toil without rest, they might finally notice their own suffering, and after noticing that, they will get certain time to heal their injuries. Okay, now if people stopped, they might recognize the harm they have inflicted on nature. So in a way, we are getting time for ourselves also, and we are not causing any kind of destruction. Is that clear? So this is important. So now let us understand the figure of speech used here, because this is very 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 important. Now, fisherman is symbolic. Fisherman is symbolic. Cold sea is transferred epithet as well as symbolism. Okay, harm whale represents innocent creatures. The man gathering salt, symbolic of labor class. Hurt hands is alliteration used here. Now this entire extract is imagery, because we can have descriptive picture in our mind. Okay, and this is also, this cold sea is also symbolic of humanity, how we are creating self awareness with that, this entire paragraph. Okay, the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Okay, now, next, those who prepare green with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Nothing. Now, this extract is a contrast between war and peace. This extract is a contrast between war and peace. Sorry, war and peace. And second is a contrast between destruction and harmony. Clear? Understand here. First three line indicates war. Other three line indicates the alternate world. That is peace, harmony. Okay, understand. Now the poet is saying that those who prepare green wars with gas, wars with fire. Those who prepares green wars means those who are involved in war, those who are those who are involved in exploiting the nature. Okay, wars with gas and wars with fire means nuclear war and chemical war. Victory with no survivors. Now the poet is saying that even if you are victorious, there will be no survivors to celebrate. So it is a paradox here. So what is the means of that victory if there is nobody to celebrate? So this is about war. Now this, the poet is reversing the role. Earlier the same person is were involved in war. Now the person is more into peace and harmony. Now the one who were involved in war will wear clean clothes. This indicates peace, harmony, and walk about with their brothers. Brothers indicates here unity, brotherhood. Okay. In the shade doing nothing. Now what does shade represents here? Shade here represents the protection, the calmness, and the coexistence of humans. This indicates the peace and harmony. Doing nothing here represent, it doesn't mean that you are sitting and doing nothing. Here the poet is trying to say that you are in a shade doing nothing, means you are rejecting the idea of violence and destruction. Now you are more into brotherhood and unity. So the poet is advocating peace and harmony in the society, in the world. Now, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. Now what poet is trying to say, that I don't want you to be confused with the fact death. Okay, he's saying that I want you to take a moment to think, to introspect about your actions. I don't want you to confuse with lifelessness, or you can say death. Okay, he is urging people to pause and reflect. So life is what it is about. Now the poet is saying that I cannot change the life is what it is about. He values life and is not struggling the stillness and equating with it death. Okay, now the poet is trying to say that even if you will take a pause, Okay, life will continue, life will not stop. For example, change in the season, change in the season giving life to the plant. For example, origin, or the, you can say, germination process, that is not visible but it is still going on. So life is what it is about. Even if you will take a moment, this will not stop. Okay, so what life should not be confused with total inactivity here. And I want no truck with death. This is a phrase which means that poet wants no association with death. Okay, if we were not so single minded about keeping our life moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence. Now the poet is saying that if we are not so single minded, we are not so obsessed with our work, if we are not obsessed with the constant motion chasing work, success, materialism, then what will we do? Basically we'll take a mind, we will take a time to think about our actions, and for once could do nothing, might do nothing. Perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves. Now what is happening, we are so much obsessed with our work that we are not getting time to think our own need and demand. The moment we will take a pause, we can think about our need, demands, desire, and definitely we can fulfill it. Okay, so this is very important, because if we will take a pause, somewhere we can understand our cycle of suffering caused by the endless pursuit of life. We are taking birth, we are taking education, and then job, marriage. So this is the common pursuit of life. So once we'll understand, we will end this cycle of suffering. And he suggests self-awareness. Self-awareness here indicates that your own need, demand, and how we are very much involved in the unnecessary conflicts, destruction, and we have that fear of death. Okay, now fear of death, that is important. Now he whose silence might interrupt is the personification used here. Okay, threatening ourselves with death, that is the fear of death. Okay, now perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and latter proves to be alive. Very important, understand. Perhaps the earth can teach us is personification. Why? Because uh, we are talking to take a pause. Okay, now the moment we take a pause, we'll understand our things. Okay, now the poet is saying perhaps the earth can teach us. Nature holds a lesson for humanity, especially about the cycle of life and renewal. Okay, for example, change in the season. Okay, as when everything seems dead and latter proves to be alive, this indicates the change in the season. We cannot see, but it is happening at the back. Okay, second, the life is going on. Okay, there is a complete stillness, but still there is life at every corner. That let us take an example of germination. Okay, activity lies in stillness. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Now what is the poet saying? Poet says that now I will count to 12 and go. So here Neruda suggests that just as nature rests and rejuvenates, humans too should embrace stillness and reflection rather than constant motion. He reassures us that silence and pause are not the end. Rather, they are the essential steps towards what? Renewal, growth, and true living. If you will take a pause, you will understand your things and understand your desire, demand, need. You will not involve yourself in conflict. Okay, so this is very important part of our life. Like nature, it takes rest, it rejuvenates. Humans too should do the same. The human too should embrace the stillness and reflection. Okay, rather moving in a constant motion, rather in a constant motion, or getting obsessed with our work. Okay, so this is all about the poem.